Durham University.
Ladies Boat
Trinity.
Club.
Ireland, from Ireland.
Ah.
On the Buckinghamshire station.
Dublin University Ladies Boat Club.
Yep, Trinity. Yeah, Trinity College, I would expect. So 2 stalwarts of the university rowing scene, particularly Brooks. Of course, they had a fantastic year, winning the championship category at the Bucks Regatta Championship 8s, pretty impressively, as did their men. So they really are the crew to beat in this event. We're not sure if this is their top crew, or if this is a subsidiary of that 8. But it'll be interesting to see how they get on as they come down the course. And I think it's difficult to call it at this stage, but if I'm looking at the 2 bow girls as they come towards that camera, it looks to me like the crew from Ireland are ahead.
I have nothing to add. There's little in it.
It is certainly close, and I tell you what, 8s racing really is the flagship, isn't it? It is great to see 2 8s tearing down the course.
Great stuff. And I'll never forget the first time I actually went in a commentary car at a 6-lane course, and I was alongside 6 Elite 8s, and I thought that really was classic.
And it is Brooks as they come past. Brooks slightly up here, probably around a third of a length.
Yep.
Is that to be expected? I think so. I mean, the girls from Ireland have had a good season, racking up a number of wins at local and regional events. They've come over here to pit their wits against the best that Britain has to offer. So it'll be interesting to see if they can overturn a Brooks crew. As I say, I've got plenty of form, plenty of power and pedigree and experience in the boat, which is key when you come down the Henley course. You need a cox who knows the course, who knows when to make the right pushes, and you need athletes who are used to the distance and used to the atmosphere that hits you as you come past the enclosures here at the Henley Women's Regatta. But it looks like Brooks are not struggling with any of those factors. I think they've stretched out a little further, perhaps have half a length, maybe even 3/4 length on their opponents. And if you look at the Brooks blades in at the catch and out the finish, they are rowing very nicely together.
I was going to say that it looks to me as if the Dublin crew are sort of half missing the catch. There's not an aggression in their stroke. They're not really grabbing the water. And Brooks are making far more efficient use of each stroke. And the Dublin crew, I think, are making difficulties for themselves.
So often is the case, it's so difficult to actually tell if you're rowing well when you're actually in the boat. But it does look like, there you go. As they come past, they're just vying to break contact here. The cox is level with the Brooks cox is level with the Dublin crew's bow, which gives you a clue as to how well Brooks have rowed in that second quartile of the race. And they're just coming past our commentary position here, tucked away underneath the enclosures. And I think it is Brooks who are stretching out further. Loads of power in that boat. Determination. Yeah, just about, I think. Should be a shame from the girls from Ireland having made the trip. Be interested to see if they try and qualify a crew for the Remenham Challenge Cup at the Henley Royal in a few weeks' time. But for the time being, it is Brooks who continue to row down the course, and they've got to be considered one of the favourites for this. The Academic 8s, certainly on that showing, they're looking impressive. Academic 8s, of course, for the Sharp Cup, sponsored by Sharp, which probably makes sense. So we'll head back to the start. And now, a bit of local interest for me, Southampton University. This is my university. Happy days all round. Up against Oxford University Women's Boat Club. Now, my immediate thoughts are I'm a little worried because Oxford University Women's Boat Club are usually pretty much a force to be reckoned with. What do you reckon, Robin?
Well, if we're going to wave universities at each other, I was at Oxford back before the Punic War, but I fear that your old university may have bitten off quite a large mouthful here, as has Consuta. I see Consuta is following an 8s race, which means that it's going to be sweating to keep up with the race, I think. I spent a day on Consuta commentating a few years back. Wonderful. The weather was awful, but the great thing about a steam-driven launch is that you always get a good cup of hot tea.
Can't say I've ever really spent a lot of time on their Henley launches. But Southampton being warned for their steering there, not a lot of excuse to be warned for your steering when you've got a cox who's literally there to steer and motivate the crew. But it does look like the Oxford crew in their distinctive dark blue kit. Of course, winners of the boat race this year. This won't have any of those athletes in, or I don't believe it does anyway. So. I saw a couple of them racing in pairs earlier today. But they did win the university boat race this year, although their reserve crew, Osiris, lost out to Blondie. So maybe this contains remnants of that crew. But Southampton still punching. Of course, the impartiality of the commentators lost a bit here, because I am going to be supporting Southampton, but I think it's around half a length, maybe 3/4 of a length, to the Oxford crew. Yeah, just about 3/4 of a length there.
Yeah, I think so.
Southampton trying hard. Of course, their women's squad have had a good couple of years. They've picked up a couple of medals at Bucks Regatta and intermediate events, raced well at some local regattas as well, and always produce a pretty good 8 under the stewardship of a couple of coaches down there. So we'll see how they get on here, but I think it's going to be a tough task to overturn the might of Oxford University.
Well, I think that's probably true. I mean, Oxford look as though they've got some confidence and command in this race. But you should never sit back and think you've got it made until the race is over.
Absolutely. Of course, Oxford University soon to be under new stewardship with a new head coach, Christine Wilson, the lady who led their cruise to the Tideway and then led them to 2 successive victories on the Tideway in 2015 and 2016, has left her post at Oxford. So we'll be seeing a new coach taking up the reins next year, so it'll be interesting to see how the Dark Blue Armada get on the Tideway in 2017. But for the time being, forget about the Tideway. They're here on the Henley course and they're showing exactly what they're made of. Probably out to a length now, maybe clear water even, which is a shame for me personally. Southampton University, of course, big supporter, but I think it is Oxford who are just a class crew on the day.
Well, I think, they are. No doubt they bear in mind the heavy weight on their shoulders of the support from all their alumni who happen to be around. On the other hand, they may just be the better crew.
Yeah,
and certainly it looks like it, but it's not saying Southampton are bad in any way. I mean, that's a good crew.
I think it's about a length and a half now, isn't it, to Oxford? And I think that's just stretching out even further.
Oxford are quicker, and that's it. But
so often is the way, unfortunately.
Yep. I don't know what sort of size rowing club has Southampton got.
Fairly small. Not on the same scale as Oxford, unfortunately.
I was going to say, you look at the facilities available.
Oh yes, no, we don't have we boat out of a little shed down on the Itchin, so it's not quite.
It's not
same
quite
standard.
the same. I mean,
But what can be done? I suppose you've got to be performing well to get the funding. And Southampton, I'm sure they'll come back next year and have another crack.
Yeah.
But it's going to be Oxford, I think, who row away to a victory. Then, of course, if you want to see the results of these events, go to www.hwr.regattaresults.co.uk. So we're back up to the start for another quarter-final of the Academic Eights with King's College London on the Berkshire Station and Newcastle University, another crew who I'm familiar with on the Buckinghamshire Station. Becky Benowith, I believe, is in this boat, and I'm told reliably that her family are watching this event, watching this race and listening to my dulcet tones over the top of it, so I certainly hope that the Benowiths are listening in. I'd be less than impressed if they're not, but Newcastle University, of course, always so strong on the student rowing circuit.
Yep. Now, is this one Newcastle or Newcastle?
Newcastle, definitely Newcastle. Not from that far up north. Bedford's just 50 miles north of London. It's definitely Newcastle. But yeah, King's College London. Always interesting to see King's College London or University College London or the London School of Economics boat under their own name as opposed to the University of London, of course. It's always good to see them boat under their own university name as opposed to join the formidable UL ranks. But it looks to me like they're being outclassed here. But I think this is Newcastle's second day, it's my understanding. I think we saw some of Newcastle's first day race of 4 earlier today. And by the looks of things, this Newcastle crew more than have the match of King's College London.
Looks like it. Yeah, it's good, classy stuff. Yeah, they've got this one.
Dynamic, I think. That's the correct word.
Yeah. They know exactly what they're doing.
You can see the cocks bent forward. They're yelling instructions at her crew. I don't think she should be too worried. I can't see King's College getting back on terms with Newcastle. They are looking pretty classy, I have to say.
King's College aren't spending that long in the water, really, if you look at them.
No. And I know some of this crew won a pennant at the head of the river, the women's head of the river earlier in the year, within a composite with Blue Star Club. So congratulations to them for that. And obviously they're showing their pedigree here. Henley Women's Regatta, which is probably the pinnacle, the most important regatta of the year for some female athletes. Certainly, I think for some of the club athletes, the students obviously have the Bucks Regatta as well. So that's another flagpole to pin their mast to. But
no, but this is the one. This is the top class. This has really become the aim for top class women rowers in this country, and abroad too.
Across the world, absolutely. We had a sculler from Singapore who'd qualified for Rio. Obviously,
Right.
Debbie Flood was racing earlier today, so we've got some
yeah.
wonderful athletes on the course, and maybe stars of Tokyo and further on, racing down the Henley course. It's always fantastic to see so many people and so many supporters turn out on the banks and cheer on their respective crews, clubs, universities, whoever they happen to be. We're just coming past our commentary gantry here. It is Newcastle have stretched out to a pretty comfortable lead. That's got to be, well, you're looking on 2 lengths, maybe 2.5 lengths now, and they're not going to be caught.
3, and you know, they're not actually overextending themselves at the moment.
Not
Just
at all.
keeping an eye on the opposition and keeping a respectful distance.
And of course, with 2 more rounds to come of this event, they don't want to overextend themselves.
Yeah, quite.
They're going to want to conserve as much energy as possible for the latter rounds, where they're going to come across some pretty classy crews, I have to say. Obviously, Oxford Brooks, I think they won earlier against Dublin. And obviously, we've already seen Oxford University win up against Southampton. So you've got some of the real bastions of the university women's circuit. So I don't think they're going to want to conserve too much energy. But yes, rowing towards the finish line with about 200 metres left to row, it is Newcastle University have just knocked the rate down a few pips. Nice and comfortable from those girls. And I think we'll head back to the start for the final quarter-final of the Academic Eights, which has just left the start. It is Bristol University on the Berkshire station and Nottingham University on the Buckinghamshire station.
Yeah, well, of course, I mean, the last thing you want to do is find yourself winning a quarter-final by 2 feet and having to row a semi. No way.
Absolutely. And we've had that before. I think a couple of weeks ago at the Met, the final of Elite 8, UL and Thames crossed together. They couldn't decide them on a photo finish, so they made them row it again.
Oh,
Which I think is just about the worst possible thing.
that's a bit rough.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is not what you want to be happening. Certainly not if you've got races to come later in the day. But yeah, as I said, we've got Nottingham University on the Buckinghamshire station with the distinctive yellow blades, and Bristol University on the Berkshire station. At the moment, it looks like Nottingham have the early advantage. Yeah, just leaving the shadows of Temple Island. I think it is the crew from Nottingham.
I think it is.
Actually look very nicely together, nice and dynamic. It's definitely underrating their opponents from Bristol.
That's a tidy crew, that Nottingham crew, isn't it?
Very much so.
It's a delight to have these pictures to look at. Oh, they've taken quite a noticeable lead, actually.
Well, considering they must be underrating Bristol by, well, they were certainly underrating Bristol by a considerable amount. So it's mightily impressive stuff from Nottingham. Of course, Nottingham, not generally their university renowned for producing top-end crews, but great if they could progress a crew through to the latter stages.
And here they come past the past the empty barrier box. Distinctive yellow blades.
I mean, at this stage, what do you think, Robin? Is there hope for Bristol yet?
Well, there's always hope, but not a very realistic one. Nottingham just being warned, they've moved over a bit.
They do look so relaxed, don't they, that
Let me
Nottingham
see,
crew?
You look at those yellow blades, one of the things about them is they're all disappearing and appearing at the same time, which
Absolutely.
does make a difference in this world. A bit splashy on the catch, but who's worried? They're winning.
I suppose in a sense, why does it matter? I mean, there's a lot of debate about whether you should backsplash at the catch. It's difficult to call it, really, isn't it?
Well, the old saying is, if it works, don't fix it.
No, completely. And the famous Harry Marr never thought you should be backsplash at the catch. But so many coaches that I've come into contact with believe that backsplash at the catch defines a nice solid connection. But enough about my coaching experiences. It is Nottingham who continue to row down the course. They've now got clear water over Bristol. I don't think that's going to be a lead that's going to be caught before long.
Seriously challenged, is it?
No, certainly not. And actually Nottingham have underrated their opponents all the way down the course and continue to move away, which is quite a feat, I have to say, taking less strokes down the course than their opponents, but still using their power more productively and more efficiently to move the boat faster. That's rowing in a nutshell, really.
Again, as so often, you see the crews come past, the crew in the lead, looking comfortable, as I say. They may not feel comfortable, they look it, and they have the advantage of seeing everything which their opponents might think about doing and reacting to it immediately. They're in command of this race. It must be just about time to pop back and see what's happening at the island.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Barring disaster, I think Nottingham are going to row away and win that race. We'll head back to the start for our first quarter final of the Junior Women's Quads, one of my favourite events on the programme this weekend. And we've got Marlow Rowing Club on the Berkshire station and Warrington Rowing Club on the Buckinghamshire station. Just watching those last final shots of Nottingham University rowing towards the finish. And we're off.